plate.
Oh my God.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
They're fabulous, huh?
Just the size of it, even against the tree here, you get a real sense of the majesty of this bird. Do you know how beautiful you are?
Their names are still embedded in the countryside. The hollow means where the wolf used to be. The cliff means an eagle crack, and some of that is in folklore. People didn't like them, and then you find that their grandfather had killed them at that nest, and then their father had killed them at their nest, and the present farmer would still walk to that nest even though no eagles live there anymore. It's outright persecution.
I often think about how widespread and common white-tailed eagles used to be. Not that long ago, far more common than golden eagles ever were. From the south coast of England right to the north tip of Shetland. With every bird that was killed or poisoned, we lost something. By 1916, that last lonely bird up in Shetland was very pale. It wasn't an albino, he was leucistic. He was photographed, and that image still exists. I think what really gets me and pulls at the heartstrings of that male, that his mate had been killed probably 10 years earlier, and he was just up there kind of waiting almost for her to reappear. And of course there were none left.
I think, if anything, it was when I started to read the old bird books, and then you read about all the things that had been killed. There were two things. I didn't like it, and secondly, what are we going to do about it? So I was always one that said, well, why can't we have them back? George phoned me and said, I got on really well with my idea about the eagles, and we want to reintroduce some eagles to Fair Isle. Can you talk to the crofters and see how they react? And that was how it was started. On Fair Isle, the birds came from Norway in what was then the Loganair Islander aircraft. And when we opened those boxes, it's never failed to impress anyone.
I think that initial Fair Isle project was critical, really. It was probably one of the first, if not the first, reintroduction attempt of a big predator like that, almost worldwide. It's since then, the States, they've brought back California condors and bald eagles and ospreys. But back then, it was all new.
I thought this can't be that difficult. And in retrospect, it worked pretty well, but we made some mistakes. And if you're going to do anything, you will have failures. But life's like that for them in the wild. You don't know whether they're going to survive or not. Some birds will make the first flight and get into trouble. The only way to do it is to get on with it. Too many people spend all their time worrying about the one that went wrong. And if you worry about one that went wrong, you'll never do anything.
They did incredibly well, really, to get as far as they did. They caught their own prey, but there wasn't able to be the sort of follow-up that we can do today, whether it's with ringing or satellite tags and so on. So the eventual fate of those few birds on Fair Isle remains unknown.
What we done on Fair Isle was regarded as a failure. I thought what we were doing had the potential to bring that species back.
By 1975, when this main phase started, John Love was the project officer employed by Nature Conservancy to be the carer looking after the young eagles that were being imported from Norway. He only thought he'd be there for one season, and he was there for 10 years in the end. Really, it's down to John that that first phase on Rum was 82 young eagles took to the air, and they're descendants of some of the birds we're seeing today. He was a gentle soul, great musician and storyteller. We sadly lost him too early a couple of years ago. We think about him still a lot, and every eagle we see, it's down to John. It takes them 5 years to get to maturity, white-tailed eagles, and here we were nearly 10 years later since the first releases in 75, and people were getting very nervy, I think, that it was never going to happen.
That was a long time. That was worrying to us. 83 was the first eggs. Even that was 8 years.
Marla's got it all. It's got that lovely indented coastline, it's got big sea lochs, there's that mosaic of habitats and the prey availability. I was on one side of the loch and Mike Madders, who I was working with, was on the other, and we had very antique walkie-talkie type things, and we switched on and just chatting and saying, what's it looking like? So there was a bit of activity, and then Mike said, I think we're both daddies, is how he put it, and that was the moment we knew that he had seen that chick, and it was an intake of breath, and we then wanted to, tell the world.
My view was, if you get to adulthood and you've lived in Scotland for that time, you're Scottish. These birds have lived in the Highlands for 4 years and then they're starting to breed. I believe they're wild.
I was still in high school when the sea eagles were reintroduced, and I remember being completely awestruck even then. I knew I wanted to work in wildlife and conservation in some way, but then when this happened, it was like, oh my goodness, can you imagine being involved in that project? That would be absolutely amazing, to sort of reinstate something that belongs here that we've lost. It is a spiritual connection in many ways. It's partly where you are when you see those birds. Here on Skye, when they started to recolonise, they actually came back to the places that they were last seen before the population became extinct. So they were in the remotest parts of the island. And these parts are really quite awe-inspiring in themselves. So it's not just the bird, it's the whole landscape where it is, it's the whole atmosphere of it all. I can't imagine these landscapes without them. It's been sad for everybody in their absence. So when I first came to Skye in 1995, There were still very few sea eagles around, and so there was more an air of suspicion generally. From the very beginning, I felt that was something I really wanted to change. I really wanted to help people to understand these birds and to appreciate them and to make that connection with them.
So there have been times when I've had very bloody lamb carcasses shoved under my nose. I've been stopped on the road and sworn at because of my effing eagles have killed one of my lambs. White-tailed eagles, unfortunately, have now been branded as this mass lamb killer. Do we deny that they killed a few lambs? Yeah, of course they can, and they do, just as golden eagles do as well. But they've now, unfortunately, been given this label, from all my experience of watching them in great detail, almost on a daily basis, certainly for the last 20 years, they're not doing that. They're not killing endless numbers of lambs. Kleptoparasitism is what it's called. They steal things off others. They're just a very convenient scapegoat, I think, for lots of things that lambs can die of, predation or disease or the weather, hypothermia and so on, but the eagles are very easy targets.
I used to feel a huge responsibility for every individual bird. For example, in 2002, one of the adult males was poisoned. And at that time, they had 2 tiny chicks in the nest, 2 fluffy little balls that would fit in the palm of your hand. I can still remember the adrenaline, the concern, the worry about these 2 little things dying. Every chick counted, every one that you could get to flight. People are brought up with what they inherit, the culture that comes before them, and what's passed on from generation to generation. For many years, it was very difficult. I've had instances where I've been in village halls with 100, 150 people, and they have been really angry, really upset about the sea eagles and the fact that they're here. In order for the reintroduction project to be successful, people have to accept them into the landscape. It's about kind of knitting them back into that fabric of the local community, because that's where they belong, knitted in. If they have a connection, they will value. If they can really appreciate them and relate to them, they will want to protect them. They will want them to be there because they enrich their lives. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I have learned so much from the sea eagles. They have shaped a lot of my life.
They came here themselves. They weren't brought to the reserve, they chose the reserve. Some trees dated to about 1640 in the reserves. So there's wolves around when those trees were wee. Bob, one of our stalkers, has been awarded on the reserve for 35 years. He was dragging a deer through the woods, and he sees this muckle bird carrying a stick flying over his head through the woods, and then he sees what looks like a nest in a big old granny tree. And that was the first we knew of it. We managed to sneak in above the nest and look down onto the nest. I remember seeing the female feeding the chicks, just amazed at how daintily and how carefully she did it, tearing off these tiny wee bits to feed a wee chick. I worked as a tree climbing arborist for years. It's quite a sort of finite skills, being able to climb some pretty technical trees and then handle these birds. I always have a wee chat to them. I'm always like, oh yeah, you're okay, you know, it's just me. Probably calms me more than it calms them. Even with a chick, it's always the claws you got to watch out for. They're so strong. They'll go straight through your hand or your arm. Having to get the first white-tailed eagle chick in England for 240 years out of the nest, into a bag, down to the bottom, so Tim and Ian and Roy can sat tag the bird. That was scary. Do not drop this bird out of the tree, Fraser. They're such important birds. You know, the first wild fledged chicks. You know, the first time a white-tailed eagle was reported flying over London and someone got white-tailed eagle on their garden bird list in the middle of London, that was amazing.
If we're in cities and we may or may not ever be able to get a chance to see the white-tailed eagle, it's still important that we're aware of it, and it's still important that we care about these things, even though we might not be able to access them, because that just sets this precedent to only care about things that are immediately around us, which is not how ecosystems work. It's not how communities work. We fight for each other regardless of the distance. If one of us is oppressed, if one of us is suffering, we're all suffering. That suffering of one person or one animal that's allowed to happen without going checked sets the precedent for it to happen to you. I've been coaching kids football for 7 years. Kids find nature boring, that's just a fact. I've tried talking to kids about nature of all ages till I'm blue in the face. They find it boring. What we need to do now, if we want to hand this over to the next gen and actually engage them in this fight, we have to start speaking the language these kids speak. We have to start meeting them where they're at. White-tailed eagle is the largest bird of prey in the UK. Who wants to take a guess how big it is?
Yeah, I feel like it's really impressive, like the size. Like literally the size of the goal, like the wingspan.
To make kids care about something they typically don't care about, you have to cross-pollinate it with something they're already interested in. So we've got these kids here already, millions of kids across the city of London. If football is already existing in these green spaces, why are we not bridging that gap? It's so close. Let's go, Eagles, let's get back into this game, Whitetails. The traditional scientists, I think they've done an amazing job in documenting what's around us, but what did you actually do with that information? You kept it locked up, obscured by language that people don't really understand. That has caused a disconnect between generations, which is showing itself in the form of young people disengaged with nature. It's not just about having the knowledge, it's about what do you do with that knowledge? This conversation of can we save our planet needs much more than scientific facts and empirical information in the fight to engage the next generation. What we're doing is saying, no matter who you are, no matter what your level of knowledge, just show an interest to want to be here with us and to be outside. That's not just how you encourage the fight to save our planet, that's how you connect with people. If you want to mobilize people, you need to be able to connect with them. You can't alienate them. It begs the question of like, did they even want us to be in that space in the first place, all of these traditionalists? And the answer to that question is, I don't care. I don't care because I'm here.
I would love to see one. I think just to see something with a wingspan that's taller than my height, like I think it's a metre taller than me in terms of its wingspan, that would be incredible to see. I heard someone say that the arts is the difference between knowing knowledge and feeling knowledge, and that really stuck with me because I realised how important storytelling is for us since we've been able to talk. And so I think creative responses, whether it's through music or through telling stories or telling stories through music, they're all part of helping us understand our place in the world and what we can do to look after it and look after ourselves in the process. I see my music creation and field recording as very much entwined. Field recording is almost a form of research through sound and through listening. It's just a way of me tapping into that environment, take it to audiences and sort of transport them momentarily into these landscapes and these soundscapes. I think part of what I'm interested in writing in the song is this idea of it coming back to a landscape that it once knew and it once belonged in and once was a huge part of the mythology of the landscape. And I think seeing it now in this tree, you just see how it completely belongs here. Music and sound is so tied into how we emotionally respond to the world. People feel it, how it's literally vibrations and it can be so powerful. Before this project, my perception of eagles was maybe affected by how eagles have been taken as a symbol of masculinity, power and strength. It's been nice with this project just being able to reframe it in my mind as well as not just a symbol but something that lives in landscapes that I can visit. And then I think also hearing facts about how the female eagle is actually the larger and the stronger of the two. It just sort of challenges your understanding of what this animal means to people. I do feel like now I have a connection myself through experiencing it from afar. I now care about it. That's where I think the role of the arts and music, I think that's where it can be so important.
When you try a project, you have a lot of people against it. And you just carry on and start it. And after a while, when it's starting to go, most of the people, oh, that's really interesting. And when it's successful, they all say it was their idea.
I've never viewed these birds as being belonging to anyone. To me, they are part of our landscape. They are part of our heritage. They are here for everyone. This nation should be proud of having these birds back. Everybody should.
I just think it's amazing that these huge birds are now colonising and recolonising Scotland, and we don't know where all the nests are. And I think that's real success.
You see the enjoyment people get out of seeing these birds on the south coast, and it's fantastic. It's like to be able to bring that to people and put it on people's doorsteps. You know, you feel really kind of humbled and privileged that you're getting to do this.
Quite often we want quick fixes and a result and then move on to the next thing, but to be able to sustain that involvement and to keep going over now 50 years, there's not many organisations that could do that. The RSPB is stuck with it. It's almost unthinkable because we just associate them with this wild West Coast habitat, but it's not impossible that you could start seeing birds nesting on the outskirts of London.
And I think it's such a hopeful story that something that has been hunted to extinction in the UK can return and people can start to accept it back again.
The success stories of animals like the white-tailed eagle need to be celebrated. There is hope here. I can go out and make a difference. I can go out and save a species. I can go out and save my community. It's important to celebrate these wins, man. You've got to, you've got to.
I just can't not do these things. I just see nature just needs me to do something, and I can't sit still. But I have a feeling that when nature is in real trouble, nature, whatever it is, makes certain that some people fight for it.
somewhere with sky and sea, somewhere that calls for me. The talons in my tomb tear softly. Somewhere the thermals rise, they lift and give delight, and hold me bathing in fading light, and I return. The waves come crashing round my bed, where I dream I am flying on my own again, above the heathlands, over soul and sage. Let me fall into nothing and arise again. And I will return to a place I knew long ago, and I find no harm in the space between sea and sun, in the space between